Hope you all are safe and doing well. On behalf of AWS Users Group Kolkata, I welcome you all on a special edition of our meetup. Today we are going to talk about some of the recent launches in AWS India Bombay region. Also, we are having exciting speakers joining from Sydney as well as the Netherlands. So Jan will be joining from Sydney and he will talk about the infrastructure as a code and some of the cool innovation which he is doing on the DevOps side. Also, we have our esteemed speaker Zamira, who will be joining from Netherlands, and she will talk about creating a secure landing zone on AWS. So this is all about the agenda of the today. I'm starting with the first part, where we will talk about some of the recent launches in India Bombay regions. So as you know, AWS has launched this region in 2016, and what we are seeing is AWS is doing the cool innovations and making sure that all the services are available in this Bombay regions. Some of the cool launches which AWS has done in the Bombay regions, I'm going to talk about that. So the first one which I would like to cover is AWS has launched the edge locations in Kolkata regions. So this is again a key launch by AWS. Just give me 1 minute. Hope you all can see my screen. So the first launch is AWS has launched the CloudFront in Kolkata regions. And what it really means is that now you can get a better latency in Kolkata region. So if you are having end customer based out of Kolkata, you can leverage the CloudFront. This is the key launch. Already we have the other edge locations in India, like Bangalore. We have in Delhi, Hyderabad, Chennai. This is the sixth. This is the key launch in Kolkata with respect to the CloudFront. Moving ahead, we have a second launch in Bombay regions. So AWS has announced the general availability of QuickSight in Bombay regions. If you don't know about the QuickSight, it's a BI tool which AWS has developed. You can create an interactive dashboard on top of QuickSight. And the beauty of QuickSight is it's a first BI tool which works on per session based pricings. So you don't have to commit upfront, or there is a no ongoing investment, and there is no charges for inactive users. The way it charges the time interval in which the users are using the QuickSight dashboard. So maybe you can start exploring the QuickSight, which is now available in Bombay regions. The third key launch in the last few months is Amazon has announced the general availability of Amazon FSx in Bombay regions. So Amazon FSx is a highly available file system which you can use for a variety of workloads, whether it's a machine learning or whether you want to use for high performance computing. You can use Amazon FSx. The fourth key launch in Bombay region is now Elasticsearch supports 3 availability zone deployment. So you can now create a highly available instance of Elasticsearch in Bombay regions. So overall, it's going to increase the availability of your Elasticsearch clusters. So this is a very cool launch. Maybe you can start leveraging it if you love to. If you are really working on the Elasticsearch kind of deployment. The next cool launch from Amazon is they have announced Amazon RDS proxy, which is currently in review in Bombay regions. So this is the launch which AWS has done in reInvent, where they have announced this RDS proxy in preview. And now this preview is available in Bombay regions. So the way it works is, let's say you are building these days a lot of serverless-based applications where you are using Lambda and you are making a lot of database connections requests, and you are starting and closing the database connection request, very frequently. So it consumes a lot of memories. So now you can, with the help of RDS proxy, you can use shared pool, and you can have like a better availability of your application. So all RDS databases, including Aurora, can now have a better availability and the recovery time. The key launch of AWS in the Bombay region is now you can use your own, you can bring your own IPv6 address in VPC. So this is a very recent launch where you can bring your own IPv6 address into your virtual private cloud. The last but not the least is a very interesting key launch, which is a availability of the backend agent of for SFE.
Looks like we've lost Ankit there. Hopefully he can come back in a moment.
Probably there are some internet issue or...
Yeah, I think we had some issues getting connected earlier. If he doesn't come back, we'll just do our own thing, I think. I know we have some support techs behind the scene that's looking at this.
Over to Jan, who will talk about the infrastructure as a code part.
Alrighty. Cool. All right, I think it's me. I think we lost you just at the end there, Ankit, but yeah. Hopefully we can get you back shortly. So jumping in, I'm going to be doing automating infrastructure as a code twice. So my name is Ian Mackay. I'm the cloud lead at Kablamo. We do app development in the Australia region out of Sydney and Melbourne. I'm also a member of the APN Ambassadors group, which both Ankit and Zamira are a part of. Today we'll be talking about infrastructure as code overall and some of the toolings that I've created to try and help the community, you guys, to author those templates and maybe get a better understanding about how this works for you. For those who don't know, infrastructure as code allows you to create cloud infrastructure resources using a domain-specific language. So in CloudFormation, they have their own one based on JSON or YAML. For Terraform, HashiCorp's Terraform, they use the HCL language. And there's a bunch of other infrastructure as code tools that are out there that people would prefer for different reasons. So the first tool I want to talk about today is called Console Recorder. Now, Console Recorder comes as a browser extension that you can install on your Chrome browser or your Firefox browser or anything that's based along those ones. There is no Safari support because of various technical reasons. What the Console Recorder does is it passively records network traffic and converts it to infrastructure as code outputs, as well as some of the programmatic SDKs like Boto3 or the JavaScript SDK or the Go SDK. The way it does this, it uses regex to match patterns in the URLs that you're visiting to the AWS Management Console, as well as patterns in the request body to figure out how what you're doing on within the browser maps to a specific output. So it maps to a specific API action or an AWS resource for the case of things like CloudFormation. So let's do the first demo. So what I want to do, I want to go over to my management console. And I've already pre-installed the console recorder here as this little orange icon. And I'm going to click here and then hit the start recording button. And what that means is that any action I perform within the management console from here on in is being recorded by the extension. Now, for security reasons, it's not sending off that traffic to a different server. It's all handled locally. So I don't see any of that network traffic. It doesn't get sent to any third-party location. It just means that it can record it locally, so it can give you those outputs locally. I'm going to go into EC2, and we're going to launch an instance with a pretty standard process. Hopefully everyone's managed to create an instance before. I'm going to pick the Amazon Linux 2 AMI. I'm going to use the T2 micro instance type. I'm going to leave the rest of these as pretty much defaults. I'm going to leave the storage as defaults, and I'm just going to give it a name. User group demo. I'm also going to create a security group with this instance, a new one, with just the default rules. And this will become slightly important later. So I'm going to go ahead and review that, launch it, and then launch. Now, as you can see, the instances that we've seen here have been launched and are pending. And at this point, I'm going to stop the console recorder recording. Now, the moment I hit stop recording, it's going to pop me up into the interface, into a new tab, and give me exactly what has happened during that process. So in this case, it defaults to the Boto3 or Python SDK. And we can see here that these are valid SDK commands that will let you replicate what you've just done. So in this case, it's doing a lot of describes, getting a lot of information that it needs to give me options in the console to figure out what I want to deploy. That includes instance profiles or AMI images or directories in directory service, availability zones, that sort of thing. If we go towards the end, you'll see that it initially creates a security group, adds rules for that security group, and then hits the run instances command, which will create that instance directly. Now, what I can do, I can take this output and use it in my own scripts without having to think about what are the various parameters that I need to do if I'm writing this manually. What are the various things I need to think about and write? And I can do this for all sorts of outputs. So in this case, this is a CloudFormation template, in which case I can say, this is how a security group is created. This is how that instance created. And you can see the tags that I created, the instance type that I specified, and all those various parameters. And I can simply take that and put it into my own CloudFormation template. I can do that for Terraform as well. I can do that for Troposphere. I can do that for the TypeScript version of CDK, although this is only for CDK primitives for those who have used it before. CLI commands as well. So if you have the AWS CLI installed locally, you can do those same commands. It'll also do JavaScript SDK, Go SDK, and it'll also give you some of the IAM actions that you would require to do this as well. And that's it for console recorder. That's basically what it does. There's a bunch of different settings you can play around with, but they're very primitive. So I wanted to go back and talk about how we actually made this. So I'll start presenting again. So internally to the console recorder product, there's a bunch of programmatic statements. So in this case, I'm saying if the method that I sent as a browser is a post and it's a create security group, I'm mapping the Boto3, the CLI, and the CFN commands to the various contents of that body. And this is a fairly primitive but effective way of doing this. Once that's done, I can set an output. I can say, yes, this is a valid action, and I can say this is for create security group in an API or create -security group in CLI. If it's a actual CloudFormation resource or Terraform resource, I can also make a tracked resource. So in this case, I'm giving it an actual type. It's not just a list command. It's not just a get command. It's an actual creation of a resource. In this case, I'm going to give it a type. So how does this work in the backend? What is the browser actually seeing? So this is the request syntax that we typically see. It's a standard JSON syntax. In this case, I'm looking at guard duty, specifically the detectors for guard duty. This is one of the most basic ways of doing it, is seeing it's got a path, it's got headers, it's got an operation, region, etc. Very simple. But not all AWS services and their consoles are the same. It does vary a lot. So here's an example of RDS. In RDS, you can do multiple actions or requests in the same network request. So I could do get 3 things in one network request, and the internal backend, which is not something that we're supposed to be exposed to, will do that for you. And it starts to get weirder as you go on. This is what the CloudFront request looks like. And this is using a protocol called GWT Wire, which stands for Google Web Toolkit. Something that you may not know is that a lot of the older services in AWS were built on this framework called Google Web Toolkit. Since then, we've moved to things like React and proprietary backends for that. And this was really hard to interpret at the beginning. It took a lot of work to figure out how this actually works. And then it gets even stranger with a bunch of different encrypted values. So this is what CloudWatch looks like. By the way, if you have any questions about any of this, feel free to put it in the chat, and I'll probably get to at the end of the session. I know a lot of this is a bit confusing, but hopefully it should make sense as we go on. So there's a lot of work in that, and it's actually something like 60,000 lines of code to get across the basics of all of the services. So I wanted to create a tool that would help me write that tool. And what I came up with is this tool called Console Recorder Generator, which I'll have to enable just briefly. And this was a tool that I'd created for just myself, because it wasn't something that I wanted to expose to the community or users. It was intentionally written very basically, very ugly in a way that I can just use. So I'm going to take a couple of new services. I'm just going to navigate around them briefly. And what I'm doing is I'm creating a network request that hasn't seen before, so that I can show you what this actually looks like. And that's already taken. And once I've done that, I can go into the extension, and I'm presenting with this interface. Now, this is deliberately ugly. This looks horrible. It's basically function and no form. And this is what I use to create the code that does console recorder. So in a sense, it's actually a code generator for a code generator. So for example, here we see the request to image builder, and the request is actually to get a role for IAM. Now you notice that these colors here don't sometimes match and sometimes don't. And that's because it's using the Bodo core library to figure out what might this be. And it uses a bunch of string matching techniques to figure out what it might be. So in this case, it's list image pipelines. And it's looked at what does list image look like? What kind of methods could this be? So it's picked up that this might be a match, which it is. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click the operation and say that when you see this operation, list image pipelines, it's definitely going to be this action. And then I hit finalize, and then that spits out code at the end of this tool that I can use to then populate the rest of it. Trying to find just an example here. Here's the ground station actions I performed. So I hit that, hit accept. And what it also does is populate some of the parameters that it might match with. So I can choose the various different API methods that are a part of that tool. So hitting finalize. And then I can scroll down all the way to the end, and it'll give me a bunch of code that I can then use to tweak if I need to, and then put directly into the console recorder extension. So what I can basically do with this is go to new services, perform the actions that I see once, and then spit out the code for it. It makes my development process very easy. And this is what the code looks like under the hood. So you can see the mapping of max results, for example. So that's the console recorder generator. So then I got a few comments. This was out in the community for a few months, and a lot of people liked it. A lot of people enjoyed it. It helped them out. But then I got questions like this, and this is from Justin, who used to work at Disney Streaming for Disney Plus. He says that although this is a really cool tool, I don't think I can get my team to use it. I don't think that everyone's going to remember to record their actions so I can get to it. So what's a way that I can use this for existing resources? And this is not a consideration I thought of when building the tool. So AWS did actually have a tool for this for CloudFormation. They called it AWS CloudFormer. Now, it was made in 2011, which is right around the time CloudFormation was actually built. It only supports 50 resource types. It requires an instance to be spun up in your account to actually do the scanning and look at what resources are in your account. And it outputs JSON, which I really didn't like because I'm a YAML sort of guy. So then I thought, how can we build something better than this? So then I built Forma 2, a direct sort of little jab at that tooling. And Forma 2 is a website that you can go to, fill in your credentials, and then it scans your existing account for the various resources to do the exact same thing, to output CloudFormation or Terraform or other infrastructure as code templates. It runs fully in the browser, but it does require an extension because of a bunch of cause issues, which I'll talk about shortly. It has 100% coverage for CloudFormation. So any CloudFormation type that exists today, or troposphere type, will be supported by this. I've got the majority of Terraform types that you'd really be using. It's at about 55% coverage at the moment. And each type is mapped manually in this case. It also has ref, getat, and sub support. And you could search the entire account for keywords. So if I wanted to search for dev or for a project name, I can just gather those objects. So let's take a demo of that just now. So to use Forma 2, I simply go to forma2.com. And then it will load up the interface. Now, if you're using this for the first time, it'll prompt you for some credentials that it can use to scan the account. Because I've already pre-entered those credentials, I can go in straight away. And this is the service list, typically like you'll see on the management console. So we can go into EC2, for example, and it'll do a scan of the account. And it's actually found that instance that we created earlier. And it's shown that it's running, it's showing what availability zone it's in, etc. So I can then select this, add it, and it'll also give me a bunch of suggestions about what are similar, what are attached to this, what is it referenced by. So I want to keep the security group, but I don't want these two, and I'll add it to my template. And once I do that, I can simply hit generate, and it'll generate that template for me without having to think about scanning your network requests as it creates it. It does this by doing a bunch of describe calls, a bunch of list calls in the SDK, using the JavaScript SDK specifically, and mapping the outputs of that to this template. And so it does a lot of interesting things, like it does the refs, so that an instance can ref its previous security group, as well as a bunch of subs, like the region for the availability zone, for example. And again, it has the same sort of outputs. It has Terraform, it has Troposphere, CDK, and also has Pulumi, which is in beta. And one extra thing you can do with CloudFormation is we now have the ability to import existing resources into a stack. So I can hit this import button and I go, a stack. And I want to delete that when that stack is deleted, essentially. So you have two choices. You can say, if the stack gets deleted and I still want to retain those resources, or you can say, if I delete the stack, I also want to delete those resources. And you do this specifically because an import is creating a resource outside of your context of CloudFormation. So it wants you to be explicit about that. So I'll go ahead and create that change set. And then moving into the console again, I can have a look at these templates. And I can see that stack being spun up and in review. If I'm where was I? Format 2. If I'm happy with the change set, I can hit execute, and it will go ahead and start to import that into the stack. And this way, I can manage that stack later and do all the actions that stack required. So that's things like changing properties within that stack, changing adding different resources into that stack, or deleting it, and then it'll delete those resources after you, it'll clean up after you. So that's the premise behind Forma 2. So just to finish up some of the things on Forma 2, there is this cause problem, which is that a lot of the endpoints for the SDK won't support a direct call from a different domain. And this is what the extension is for. The browser extension allows you to make those cause requests without having an access control at origin header, which is a huge issue. It means you can't actually make third-party requests. The reason this happens is because the service teams behind various services don't add that core support when they release the service. So they're two tools that I've created. Console Recorder is about 52,000 lines of code. Forma 2 is about 73,000 lines of code. I think these numbers are a bit old. And Forma 2 is significantly easier to maintain and less prone to failure. Every time a service console updates in the console, like we're seeing now, we're seeing a lot more of the same thing in the console. It changes the network request underlying, so it does break that console recorder mapping. Forma 2, because it's based on the API, will always be compatible. So for myself, I'll attempt to maintain both for as long as I can. And I hope that you, as the community, can get some benefit out of this. So that's my talk. If there's any questions, chuck them in the chat, and hopefully Ankit can relay those to me. So thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Thanks for this wonderful sessions. I don't see any question in the comment right now, but maybe at the end we can come back if we'll get any question.
Yeah, cool.
Now I would like to hand it over to Zamira. Zamira, over to you. Thanks for joining.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen, Zamira.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Today, I will talk about Control Tower and Landing Zone. Let me introduce myself for all of you that you don't know who I am. I'm Zamira, Solution Architect at Mobiquity, leading the cloud platform team, one of the biggest projects at Mobiquity, implementing some AWS solution helping customers with their digital transformation. We guide also the company through the process of design and building digital product and service that serve a purpose. I have more than 6 years experience with AWS. I remember the first time when I touched the AWS console, there was some couple of service like EC2 or S3. But now if you see the AWS console is really rich, a lot of service and bunch of product and features. I'm also part of AWS APN Ambassador as Jan, and recently I was recognized as Hero. All of this about me. Let's get started. So what is AWS Control Tower? Is managed service provided by AWS that allow you to manage governance rules for security, operation, and compliance at scale across all the organization and accounts in the AWS cloud. Control Tower basically set up the landing zone, AWS organization, identity and access management, guardrails, service catalog, multiple AWS accounts, and single sign-on. But why is so important control tower? Let's imagine we have an idle organization in the company. You know that we have different functions such finance department, engineering department, solution architect department, operation, and a lot of department. And every one of these department is isolated by each other and has different purpose, different strategy. So let's say finance department is responsible for the finance, and they decide how much money they can spend for each department. Also, we have solution team that they come to the customers and they based on the requirement of the customer, the needs of the customer, they have to give them the good solution. This is the same situation as when we talk about control tower. So we have control tower in top of everything, and which is offer a highly effective centralized government solution to manage all AWS accounts and the services that are part of these accounts. Enterprise company, they are truly looking for a full spectrum of the process and keep their system under control. A control tower has 24/7 365 visibility, which enable round-clock or real-time feedback to the customers through alert, providing greater resource and efficiency. If you want to see some of the benefits of why we are using control tower, the first one is scalability, that offer prospective guidance to govern your environment at scale. What is mean? So if you have only one AWS account and you want to create probably 100 or more than 100 because your company is so large and you have so many customers, using the service catalog that is part of control tower, you can set up this account just in a couple of minutes and apply to each of these accounts some baseline or some policy based on the requirement of each account. The second one is security. Is out of the box guardrails offered by control tower not intended to meet regular compliance standards such PSC, SOC 1, SOC 2. Control tower guidelines represent a set of AWS best practices for governance in your environment through rules such allowing and disallowing some policy. Speed and easy way is the third one. This because control tower give you a control over your environment without sacrificing the speed and agility AWS provide for builders. So you can set up all the landing zone just in a couple of hours, and you have the full solution cross account and cross all these services that you need. And high availability, you know that already AWS is across a region, and every region has different availability zone. So as a service, control tower is managed service by AWS is all across this availability zone. In case of one, for example, one availability zone can go down, you have already the service that is up and running, and there is no downtime. Let's see now landing zone that is managed by control tower. I want to show you something because a lot of probably there are some confusion. What is control tower? What is landing zone? Probably sometimes thinking that they are the same. Control tower is just managed service by AWS that give you the possibility to spin up and create a full landing zone. And landing zone itself is just solution that has a bunch of services and bunch of features that is well architected, that you can have multiple accounts and services that are part of this. So sometimes you really don't know when we start a project, when we start a company, how many services do I launch? What about my security? What about my governance and baselines? How I do want to deploy? How many environment do I have? This is why it's really good to start with control tower, because give you the possibility to have like a basic baseline that is well architected, and you can start from this if you don't really have enough experience on AWS. There are 4 important things that are set up by Control Tower. The first one is, as I said, landing zone. That is a well-architected multiple AWS environment that is based on security and compliance best practice. This is enterprise-wide container that holds all your unit organization, accounts, users, other resources that you can be subject to compliance regulation. Guardrails is a high-level rule that provide ongoing governance for your overall AWS account. Centralized and identity access is more about all the users, groups, permission that is going to allow cross AWS accounts. And account factory is very important as well, because if you want to set up a new account in existing landing zone, you can just set up through service catalog that is part of Control Tower. And in the end, in all of this, you have also the dashboard. Offer oversight of your landing zone to your teams for of central cloud administration. You can use to see accounts across all this region. You can see all the features as well that are part of landing zone. What Control Tower do? In this picture, there are 3 AWS accounts: master account, log account, and audit account. Master account, this account that you created especially for landing zone, in this account is set up also Control Tower that manage and govern all other accounts and the services that are part of this account. Log account, this account work as repository for all the logs of and API activity resources configuration from all AWS accounts. That are part of landing zone. When you set up landing zone, the following all the resources are created. They generate the logs, and all of these logs are mostly stored in log account. An audit account that is very important as well. This account is really a restricted account that is designed to give you the security and compliance team read and write access, depend on the case, to all accounts that are part of landing zone. So you can have some kind of rules and activity in this account to audit and see what is going on and who is going what in which account, which service. So it's like a monitoring, auditing for all the services and accounting that are part of landing zone. In each account, in each of these accounts, there are some resources created, starting from master starting from the top. You can see here there is CloudFormation, identity provider, IAM CloudWatch Log, and CloudTrail. All of these are created automatically in every account, and not only these 3 accounts, but each account that you want to set up for the first time that are part of this landing zone managed by Control Tower. All of these services are part of baseline that are created automatically. Let's start with the first one, CloudFormation. So let's go deeply on these services. CloudFormation, probably most of you, and Jan explained a bit, that are mostly the template refer to initial baseline or blueprint, where Control Tower create all the resources in each account automatically. Let me explain better. So let's say in master account, I want to add a new account. And when we set up this account, a new account in landing zone that is part of this solution, from master account is going to launch a template that is part of new account and create all of these services. So it's completely automatically managed by AWS. The second one is identity provider. This is created in each AWS account, allows you permission cross account through the SAML configuration. Let's go to the next service, IAM role. This is very important to explain. I want to really show you in which way all of these services work together across the basic 3 accounts that are set up by landing zone. Mostly there are three kind of roles that are created. The first one is service linked role. This type of role is mostly associated to the resource to grant permission to specific AWS API, specific resources. Let me explain better of this. Let's say we have in a master account control tower, and control tower need to have permission to a service catalog that can set up a new account or new resources. And to have permission to do that, he need roles to be associated with control tower. But you know already that roles that are part of any service by default has deny permission. So if you want to give permission to this service, you just attach the policy and assign specific permission to what is going to do this service. And this is going on to all the service in AWS. With organization, with a service catalog itself, or probably AWS config rule, all of service need to have specific IAM role. The second type of role that was created here is cross-account role. Why is important? As all of these accounts are set up in landing zone, are part of landing zone, and everything is governed, is centralized, this account need to have some specific permission, cross-account permission. This type of role delegate access cross AWS account permission. In this scenario that you see in this picture, log account grant full access to audit account, and audit account grant full access to master account. Why this? Because as I said in beginning, all the logs are stored only in log accounts, and if you want to collect the logs for different account, cross account, all of this account need to have permission to ship the logs in this account, and so on. For audit, if you want to track all the activity, that is what is happening in each account, you want to have permission, of course, in these accounts. So let's move on. The next service that is part of Control Tower is CloudTrail. When we set up landing zone, is so important to enable CloudTrail to every account and every region. Mostly, probably for most of you that don't know what CloudTrail is just collect of all the history of API through AWS Management Console, SDK, command line tool, or other service as well. So what's happened when we set up landing zone? As I said, all this CloudTrail is enabled in all region and all accounts, and automatically in log account we have S3 bucket that store and collect all the logs across this region and across these accounts. Also in log account, we have another S3 bucket that is for server access logging, but also you can extend, of course, landing zone, add probably another bucket like a read replication or a cross region bucket, so you can have a backup of all the logs. If someone for mistake can cancel or can remove the logs from one bucket, you have in another one. And all of this process is automatically managed by Control Tower, is governance service. So let's move to the next service that is part also of Control Tower, is Service Catalog. Service Catalog is in master account, allow you provision portfolios and add the product to these portfolios, provide you but Control Tower provide your own portfolio with already associated a product that is called Account Factory. Through this Account Factory, you can see there are created already 2 accounts. When I showed you before in previous slide, there's log archive account and audit account. All of these 2 accounts are set up by service catalog that is part of Control Tower. Also, if you want to add more account that should be part of this Control Tower, you have to go through service catalog in Account Factory, just launch a new product. And this product is going to create a new custom account and is applied automatically all the baseline and all of these services that I'll explain it in this account. Let's move to the next one. Is AWS Organization is also part of landing zone. When you set up automatically a Control Tower in AWS, you can see it's created account organization structure into group and apply a service control policy in each of them to ensure that your accounts stay within your organization access control guidelines. You can see under root here, there are 2 main groups, core and custom. Log archive and audit account are part of core organization that is managed automatically by landing zone. But also you can see another organization here, custom. By default, you don't have any new account, but also you can add as many account you need in based on your requirement and your need. Centralized identity access, single sign-on is very important here as well. If you have, let's say, hundreds of accounts and it's so complicated sometimes to go through the console, probably you have to find the link, and you really don't know in which way to access on insecure, or probably is this secure way to access the AWS account. Landing zone provide you really friendly link, single sign-on, when you can access all of this account. And and you don't have only the list of AWS account, but also you have the permission associated to each account. You can go through AWS console, or you can use access key and secret key if you want to access through the API. Through single sign-on, you can set up users, groups, account, and permission. So what I mean with that, as single sign-on is part of master account, you don't need to create IAM users in each account. So all the users and permission and groups are created only master account and are governance by master account. So if you want, of course, to add like Active Directory and all of these users are managed by Active Directory, you don't really need to go through each account and create the users, but all of them are managed by single sign-on. So let's have an example here. We have a dev team, and in dev team is Andrea, Chiara, and we have probably more people that are part of dev team. And we want the dev team has access only in dev account, because probably they have a code commit or code build. They have all built there in this account, and they want to build and to do some tests with their application. So the users that are part of dev group are assigned permission to have two specific accounts. So when you are going to single sign-on, you can see in the list only this account, and you can just click on this account. So you don't have permission to other accounts. This is all governed. And what about security? We saw a bit baseline that are applied to each service, and all of these services that you see here, I applied automatically to each account that is spin up for the first time, especially for audit and login account that are automatically part of Control Tower by default. They are created all of these rules. And let's see why they are so important for security. I have an example here with S3 bucket, but of course there are a bunch of services that are part of guardrails of all of the rules that really you want or you don't want to have in AWS account. For example, if you don't want to create a public S3 bucket for some reason, if you don't want to create EBS not encrypted for some reason, for example, especially in production account, you want to have a stricter rules for specific resources to make your system and your data in secure way. So let me explain. This example is just with S3 bucket, but you can use this example for all other services as well. So let's say a user here create a public bucket or change from this bucket from private to public. AWS config checks that your S3 bucket don't allow public read access. If an S3 bucket policy or a bucket ACL allow public or read access, this bucket became a non-compliant service. CloudWatch event rule trigger an SNS topic when the config rules complies changes. In this case, S3 became non-compliant service. Also, SNS topic invoke Lambda function, sending in input all this information, said, oh, hey, hello, Lambda, I have this service that is non-compliant. Please, can you approach and can you do something? And Lambda function give all this information and send notification to AWS SNS. This is important to specify. This topic is created only in audit account and send some notification to audit team, probably to SOC or to specific people that say we have a service created that is not compliant, so we need to take some action. And this is in log account as well. We have the same situation, but with the simple difference, because here, as you see, Lambda function send the notification in audit account, and the same logic is for all accounts that are set up by landing zone. Here are most of the features of the service that are part of baseline. As I said before, each baseline is automatically applied in each new account or that are part of control tower. Automatically is enable MFA, is enable CloudTrail, cross-region, cross-AWS account, is establish all across account roles to give and grant permission to specific resources in AWS, identity federation through the YAML configuration. S3 bucket collection log is created in log account to collect all the logs, and policy that is specified in each IAM role to allow or deny some permission to specific action. AWS config groups is applied in all accounts to specify some rules and action, what you have to do in this account. Something for networking that I didn't specify until now is very important. This as well is when you set up a new account that is part of landing zone, you can decide automatically to delete a default VPC. You know, when you create manually a new account, you can see that networking is too open, and probably you really don't know for security, especially in enterprise company. You don't want to have that, so you just delete the default VPC, and automatically you can set up a VPC CIDR in your preference, or how many subnets do you want, and which kind of CIDR you can have, or you can decide like /20 or /22, depend on your case and your requirement. As I said, the shared account is mostly a log account, archive account, log archive account, and audit account, but also you can add some more accounts that are part of core organization. For example, if you want to have a service or tool that are common in organization, like Active Directory, instance, inactive instance, EBS volume, you want to share some EBS volume or want to have backup, or DNS centralized, for example, if you want to have only one account DNS and just simple a hosted zone in different account, also for disaster recovery purpose and so on. And this is all overview what is created by Control Tower. As you see on top of that is master account with AWS Organization, two important organization core and custom unit. Also single sign-on, groups, user, permission, guardrails as well, all the rules. For example, I have a list of guardrails here, but you can also add more or change it or specify in your needs. And service catalog that you can provision automatically new account and apply all the baseline rules that I specified before. This is what really Control Tower provide by default, and this is a good start when you really can extend your landing zone. If you really don't have experience in AWS and really you don't know how many applications you are going to apply, how your network is going to look like, and in which way you want to create all the infrastructure. But you also can extend landing zone based on your requirement, or you can create your own landing zone as well. In Mobiquity, we had created a solution on landing zone, a part of what Control Tower, using Control Tower, of course, a part of what Control Tower create by default. We also added some environment for one of the most important customers. Here you can see in this picture there are 4 important accounts. This is CI/CD for DevOps, dev account, custom account, and prod account. But this is just one example. You can add as many accounts as you want through service catalog and add this account to custom organization unit. You can also add more organization unit. Probably you have different customer and you want to centralize everything and you want to customize everything, and they are completely isolated by each other and and governed in different way. And you can also have a baseline that create your own baseline applied in specific account and specific resources. Let's talk about all these custom account that we created. We created DevOps, let's say DevOps account, because we wanted this account allow DevOps team to successfully release application across AWS accounts. In this case, we had 3 environment, dev, pre-prod, production, but also you can add UAT, quality, or test, or how many accounts do you want. It's important that these two are isolated by other environment for security purpose. Dev account, we created this environment to allow developers to start developing things, to experiment, to learn, to innovate, to build things up. Here, developers deploy their code, test any newly implementation feature or bugs. Once the code is considered, let's say, stable, they start building and deploy to other environments like pre-prod and production. Pre-prod, this is where the quality assurance is performed. Tester access the staging environment and ensure that the application work as it should. It is the environment that run different tests, detect bugs, and ensure that application is ready to deploy for production. And production, that is the most restrictive environment, is where the production application are made available for end user. We should have very limited access to this account to ensure the right connectivity. and ensure especially the logs are shifted and logs in collected in logs account for security and for auditing or for operation perspective, all of this stuff. And also we added a new AWS accounts that is for because we wanted to have some analytics purpose and data analytics. In enterprise organizations, some of the critical things are controlling and managing the logs, storing the logs in secure way, centralizing storage, and centralizing all of these logs sometimes save time, increase the reliability of your log data, and allows you to filter the most significant security data critical for auditing process and compliance in large organization. As you see here, I have a list of accounts, but you can have as many accounts as you want. You can set up, you can collect all the logs in each account in CloudWatch, and you can configure just send the logs automatically through CloudWatch subscription into data analytics accounts. However, you can call it however you want. This account is just a name, doesn't really matter. The Amazon Kinesis Firehose is created to deliver log data from the data stream to Amazon S3 for debugging, and Elasticsearch for analytics purpose. However, you can use other services as well. You can extend this solution. The delivery stream uses a generic Lambda function for data validation and transformation. Firehose allows you to ingest data from different data producer. In this case, data are coming all from CloudWatch, but also you can have some different services, EC2 instance. You can install agent and get the data. Probably you have IoT, or probably you have in on-premise as well some service, and you want to collect the data from all of these services. So allow you to get all the data from different data producer, and is very easy way to reliability load streaming into different destination point. I choose just Elasticsearch, but you can also use different destination based on your requirement. The function here does transformation and validation of the data, which is residing in Kinesis Firehose, and change it before it written to destination. It's very important. So if you want really to transform some data, to transform in JSON, or probably you want to filter some data, some of these logs, you can just use Lambda function, and before sending these logs in the destination. And in the end, something that really I wanted to show you is what is the biggest difference control tower versus landing zone. You can set up your own landing zone in AWS, or you can choose to set up landing zone by control tower. Let me go through this list and see. The first one is speed and easy way. If you choose control tower, less than just 1 hour, you can have all the setup landing zone, all account, organization unit, guardrail, single sign-on, service catalog, and 2 main accounts, that is audit account and log account, what I explained until now. And from other side, if you want to set up landing zone, custom landing zone, probably this take really time, probably weeks or month, or more than 3 or 4 months, depends in which way you want to automate, and what kind of language you want to use, of course, to set up all of this service. For organization unit, with control tower, you can create as much as you want organization unit, but something that I realized during my experience so far is you can't add in control tower existing organization unit. So for example, if you have already account that is part of organization, you can't add. So you can, of course, create a new organization in this control tower, but not add existing one that is part of another landing zone probably, or associate to other specific. And if you create your custom landing zone, you can add as existing one. The third feature is service catalog portfolio. In control tower, the account factory, as I explained before, enable you to create a new account and apply in this new account a baseline specified by control tower. But something that is missing right now is doesn't support existing service catalog. So if you have a service catalog already set up in your account, you can add this in control tower. It doesn't support it right now. Another things is about single sign-on that I saw that is issue also for control tower. That is good benefit if you have your own landing zone, is if you have already a single sign-on set up in your AWS account, control tower doesn't support to add it automatically, this single sign-on, because what's happening during the setup of control tower, he's going to create automatically his own single sign-on configuration. Networking, about networking is something very important, is when you set up control tower landing zone, as I said, you can remove all delete of VPC, and you can set up your own VPC, decide the insiders, different insider, how many subnets you want. You can do the same this in your landing zone as well. And grid lines in control tower is a grid line. There are baseline that are set up by AWS, and some of the services that are applied automatically, or some features that are applied automatically in all this account. But if you have your own landing zone, you can create your own baseline, your rules, and specify what rule you needed for each account. Also for API, something that is missing probably now for control tower, there is no API or SDK or CDK that you can control and you can create automatically control tower. The only way is you can go through console, AWS console, and just create control tower, and all is set up by AWS. Scalability is very important. Control tower support version. So if you want to extend existing landing zone that is created and managed by control tower, you can add more service on this landing zone, and you can probably add more feature. You can scale up and down, and you can create a new version of control tower, new version, let's say, of your blueprint or your blue, and just apply a new version. And this is applied automatically to all accounts. Is absolutely very good, because if you have probably 100 account and to do it manually, this probably you can take mistake first of all, but really requires a lot of times. And with control tower landing zone, in just a couple of minutes, all of these rules are applied automatically in all accounts. And with this, I think I close my session for today. Thank you so much. Please, if you have any question, I'm so happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Zamira, for these excellent sessions. So viewers, you can type the questions in the comment box. Sorry, everyone, I am facing certain internet issue due to the bad weather. So I dropped off when I was covering the top updates of the Bombay regions. So one of the updates which I missed to cover is AWS has launched the backend agent, and this is the SAP certified agent which AWS has launched. And the way it works is like, if you're running a SAP S/4HANA kind of workload on top of AWS, you can leverage this backend agent to store your HANA database backup on top of Amazon S3. And you can also recover back from S3 to your HANA database. And the beauty of it is all HANA native tools like SAP HANA Cockpit or SAP HANA Studio, you can leverage to perform these activities. With that, I'm going to the last part of this today's sessions, which is a quiz. So the rule of the quiz is you have to write the answers in the comment box, and one user can write only one answer. And the second thing is that those who will reply first and with the correct answer will be the winner. So here I go with my first question. When AWS has launched Bombay region, in which year? You can put the answers into the comment box. We have exciting prizes.
Sorry. Can you repeat again the question? In what all region control tower is in place currently? Right? Is this the question?
No, Zamira. In which region? Sorry, in which year AWS has launched the Bombay region? So this is a quick question for our viewers.
Control tower, I think, is not available in all AWS region. Is available only in some region. I know that recently it was applied already in Sydney, but also now is supported in Ireland, in USA, and some other region as well. So, however, you can. I don't remember all of them. There's I'm not sure if it's already in Mumbai. I have to check this part.
So Zamira, thanks for the explanation. Actually, we are doing quiz and we are asking the viewers to reply on comment. And the question is like, in which year AWS has launched their Bombay region? So this was the first question, and maybe we can see who has replied it later on. I'm going to the second question for our viewers. And the second question is, in which year AWS has launched the third availability zone in Bombay region? This question is for viewers. So you can type the answers in the comment. Maybe we can check later on, and you can also provide your email ID there so that we can reach out to you with the gift vouchers. So thank you again. It was really exciting sessions. Thanks once again to Jan and Zamira for joining us. Right, we all know like we all are in different time zone. Again, you are able to make it. Really appreciate it, and we look forward to see you again in our community day in India. Thank you so much, Jan. Thank you so much, Zamira, and thanks all the viewers for joining today's sessions. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Ankit.
Thank you so much.